Hello, everyone. It's Justin Ruland, and today is the day that we've all been waiting for. It is WWDC 2020, the first ever online virtual WWDC. And I am going to be covering the last minute leaks and rumors before we begin the conference, which will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, the first rumor that was just leaked a few days ago. I think it was Sunday, or no, actually, it was probably no. I think it might have been Friday. Actually, is that we will be having no hardware at this year's event. Now, previously, it was reported that we were going to be seeing the announcements for a new redesigned iMac, as well as AirPods Studio, and the Apple AirTags, which are kind of like tile trackers. However, it seems like this year those plans have been scrapped at the last minute, and we'll be seeing hardware, those products released on Apple's website in a press release. So don't expect any hardware at WWDC. I know if you're looking forward to hardware, it's probably disappointing, but this year is probably not going to happen. Next is we have also heard about a renaming structure for iOS 14. Reportedly, it'll now be going back to iPhone OS. Now, for those who don't know, this was originally what the software was called on the first ever iPhone, which was unveiled in 2007. It ran iPhone OS 1.0 before moving to iOS in 4.0. So we could be seeing a return back to iPhone OS, which actually makes sense because Apple is trying to make their platforms, from what it seems like, they're trying to make their platforms more exclusive to the devices. We've seen that with iPad OS. Obviously, the Apple Watch has its own software, Watch OS, which we will talk about. And you have tvOS and Mac OS, and maybe even HomePod OS, possibly. So, this is just Apple really making their platforms exclusive. And I actually like it. I agree with this. I think that this makes sense. It will be a tough transition to not refer to it as iOS anymore, but over time, it'll be, we'll all get used to it again. So, next, I'm going to discuss what I'm most excited about, actually, and that is obviously iPhone OS 14, iPad OS 14, and Watch OS 7. I'm not going to be covering Mac OS or tvOS as I do not have either of those devices, so if you were looking for Mac OS coverage, I'm sorry, but I will not be able to provide that, and I'm not really intending to cover it, so just keep that in mind. So, anyways, starting off with iPhone OS 14, this is mainly going to be geared towards stability. And I think what I've been saying is I think it's going to be geared towards stability and convenience. As you guys have probably noticed in my videos, about iOS 13, I have had a rough time with iOS 13 as well as many other people have. So iPhone OS 14 is going to be kind of like what iOS 12 was, and more focused on stability rather than features. There will be features added in the software, but they're not going to be huge. They're not going to be huge changes that we've seen in iOS 13. Expect that in iOS 15, potentially. So, some of the features that we will be seeing potentially are a new incoming call UI, which is something that I'm looking forward to because it's kind of inconvenient when you're doing something on your iPhone or even your iPad, because this will apply to the iPad as well. It's kind of annoying when you're doing something on your device and you receive a call, and then the call UI takes up the entire screen, and you are stuck in there unless you decline or you answer. So we could see a new incoming call UI, kind of like what they have on Android, where you have a little banner up in the top left corner or right, wherever they decide to put it, and it will display as a notification while your phone is ringing. So that could be happening, and I think it is happening, because Craig Federighi, in an email, I'm not sure who it was to, but he stated that they will be redesigning the incoming call UI. So that's great news. I'm looking forward to that quite a lot. We've also heard about a new way to organize your home screen in a list view, similar to the Apple Watch. So you would have your apps on a list, and you can either sort them by apps with unread notifications, or I believe alphabetical order. I don't really know too much about the list view. I haven't really paid too much attention to it. It does seem like a nice feature, but I don't know. I don't really expect it to come in 14. I really don't. I think that's one of the things that could be saved for 15, but I could be wrong, and I hope I am. But that's what we're potentially seeing, and I do like the list view on the Apple Watch. I think it's nice and clean and organized, and I would love to see that on the iPhone. Excuse me. Also, we could be seeing a new fitness app, as well as a new augmented reality app. So iOS 14 is not going to be a major update. Don't expect many changes. It's going to be mainly, as I said, focused on stability and performance. And also, all devices, it's rumored that all devices that are running iOS 13 will also be supported for 14. So that goes back to the oldest devices, which are the iPhone 6s Plus and the iPhone SE and the iPhone 6s. So that's great news. You want to end those phones on a good note, like you did with the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus and 5S. Those phones ended on iOS 12, and they were better off for it. So next, we're going to talk about iPadOS. Now, the rumors for iPadOS are that we're supposed to be getting more controls for the Apple Pencil, so being able to use the Apple Pencil more in Safari, as well as controls for the Magic Keyboard as far as brightness, and because right now, from what I've heard, the new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pros does not have function keys, so there's no way to change their brightness of the backlit keys unless you go into settings, and which is kind of inconvenient. On your Mac you can press your function keys, or if you got a Mac with a touch bar, you can press it on your touch bar and change the brightness of the keys. So that could also be coming. We've also heard about being able to have Safari translation, so be able to translate websites into different languages, and this could also be coming to iOS as well. We've also, now this rumor hasn't really been talked about too much, but we could have a new Siri UI, kind of like on the Mac, where Siri will only take up the top portion of your screen and not the full screen, which would be great on the iPad. That makes a lot of sense on the iPad. It should have been that way all along, but hey, better now than never, I guess, right? So there's also new features in iPadOS 14 that we don't know about, which is why I'm excited, because I don't really care about the Apple Pencil stuff, but I'm curious to see how much Apple really expands on the iPad, and how they intend to move it further away from iOS. So the next up is watchOS. Now, watchOS has not really been discussed too much. We haven't really seen a lot of leaks on this as well, but it's going to be focused mainly on, from what I've heard, and what the leaks suggest is that it's going to be mainly focused on parental controls and school time and screen time. So, as far as the parental controls go, it could allow parents to pair a kid's Apple Watch to multiple iPhones, so parents can manage what their kids have access to on their Apple Watch. Which, I mean, I don't really know if a lot of kids have Apple Watches, but maybe Apple seems to believe that that's becoming a trend, and it could be kids having Apple Watches, so it makes sense. Could also be seeing native sleep tracking, which is something I'm looking forward to. I hope that does come to fruition, because I've always wanted sleep tracking. I do have Sleep Watch on my watch, but native sleep tracking would be great. So next, I'm going to I'm going to briefly touch on this because I'm I'm kind of enthusiastic about it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I'm skeptical, but we're going to discuss the transition from Intel to ARM on Apple's Macs. Now, their Macs have been using Intel since 2006 when they transitioned away from PowerPC, and now Apple is planning to do the same thing, transition from Intel over to ARM. Now, this is going to lead to longer battery life as well as better performance, because there'll be Apple's own in-house chips like you see on iPhones, iPads, watches, and Apple TV. So this could be great. The only thing that the one thing that has me skeptical that I'm worried about is that I've heard Apple could potentially only allow apps to be installed from the Mac App Store. And I hope that's not the case. I hope you'll still be able to run your native Mac apps that you'll be able to install your DMG files and not just have to rely on the App Store, because that just reminds me of Windows 10s, and well, yeah. I have a video on that I did a few years ago, so anyways. And also, too, the Mac is a computer. If they do that, it'd be more like a mobile device, and that should be reserved for the iPad. The iPad, I think, one day will be a 2-in-1 device. I think the iPad will be a sort of a laptop as well as a tablet that, has a mixture between desktop and mobile. So I hope Apple sticks to their roots and they don't limit you to the App Store, because that would just be very disappointing. And I plan on getting a Mac in the future, and I sort of want to wait for these ARM Macs. So I hope that's not the case. I hope they don't just limit them to the App Store. So anyway, guys, this was just a quick and brief rundown of what to expect at WWDC later on today at 1 p.m. Eastern. I will be back with some coverage after the keynote. Probably not right away. Maybe at some point this week. Austin's Life, and I'll be doing this with Austin's Life. So be on the lookout for that. And also, Austin will be doing a stream on his tech channel, Austin's Tech, which I have linked in my live stream. I can link it again, but if you go to my live stream that I did a few weeks ago, it is also linked in the description. If you please give him a subscribe to him and show him some support. He will be doing live interaction to the keynote, so if you'd like to go hang out with him from 11 a.m. until the keynote's over, feel free. I will be in there chatting with him as well as his subscribers and maybe some of you guys that are subscribed to my channel. So, with that all being said, I hope you all enjoy WWDC later on today. I know I'll be. And I'll be covering betas on the channel. Not WatchOS, but iPadOS and iOS, so be on the lookout for that. So, as I said, enjoy WWDC, and I will talk to you all next time. Take care, everyone.